Welcome back, true believers and spectacular Spidey fans, to another Spider-Man PS4 related video, and today is an actually interesting theory that we have from one of our amazing true believers and subscribers to this channel, Juan Gomez, or Joan Gomez. It's spelled Joan Gomez. So thank you so much, dude. You are awesome for this theory, and it is actually a very intellectual theory that he came up with in regards to this game. And it is going to be a really awesome example of a theory that could be true. And if it is true, it would actually make this game a lot more interesting in regards to its story. So, the reason why that is boxed in red right over there is because if you did not see any of the Easter eggs that were located in this trailer, you would have noticed that Feast is one of the Easter eggs that are actually appearing in this game. And what I mean by that is Feast is actually a really important plot point device and building and company that is owned by Mr. Negative that relates to his story. And what Feast stands for, it stands for Food, Emergency Aid, Shelter, and Training. And what that is, it's basically kind of like a homeless shelter slash soup kitchen that is aided for the homeless residents of New York City and also the hungry residents as well, and they're there just to offer their services to people in the city so that way they have all of the necessities available to them that they can provide for themselves, so that way they just don't die of starvation or just continue being homeless. And the person that owns this building well enough is Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, which is a really cool thing. I noticed this Easter egg already ever since the trailer came out, but this theory is actually really important to Feast and the plot point of what Martin Lee does in regards to Feast. So, in the storyline of New Ways to Die with Spider-Man, that is the storyline where Eddie Brock is actually working at Feast. He is gone from the Venom symbiote. He has been separated from the symbiote, and he has terminal cancer, but his chemotherapy has been working out, and it has been slowly healing him, as well as Martin Lee being in charge of Feast and owning the company of Feast and employing Eddie Brock as one of his helpers, knowing that he was Venom in the past. However, he still hires Eddie to give him a second chance, but he unintentionally touches him with his negative powers, which allows Eddie's remaining little bits of the symbiote in his body to charge up with negative energy to be reverse Venom, aka the Anti-Venom, which is basically why his color scheme is white and black instead of black and white, is because of how his white blood cells have been majorly affected by Mr. Negative's powers, which embodies the white blood cells of Eddie Brock's body and charge them up with more energy so that way the symbiote is reversed. So instead of hindering people, it actually cures people of all diseases. Same thing with In Edge of Time. Anti-Venom was really a big threat to Spider-Man 616, or the Amazing Spider-Man, and when he fought him, he drained Peter of his powers, because he was curing him of the radioactive spider bite that was giving him all of his powers. So again, Anti-Venom is a actually very vital and really deadly opponent when it comes to Spider-Man and his abilities, and since Venom is basically the opposite of Spider-Man, since Venom is not able to be detected by Spider-Man's spider sense, which makes Venom a really deadly adversary for Spider-Man, Anti-Venom makes it even more deadly given his power set and the fact that he is kind of like a more healing version of Venom. He is a more residual and longer-lasting affected Venom than the other Venoms beforehand. That goes for Flash Thompson, Matt Gargan, all the other Venoms, even Main Venom. So Anti-Venom against Main Venom, I think it would be a really close match, but given against Spider-Man, Venom and Anti-Venom are both really deadly opponents. However, Anti-Venom provides more of a everlasting effect towards Spider-Man instead of what Venom would do, which is just really trying to murder Spider-Man. Anti-Venom can actually get rid of Spider-Man's powers, which is really intense and can actually drain Spider-Man of all of his energy. And again, Mr. Negative, since he is confirmed to be in this game pretty much, since of his henchmen are in this game, the Inner Demons are in this game, which has to mean that Mr. Negative is featured in this game one way or another. It would mean that if Feast is actually a really important building for this story, if it is, we don't know if this is just a little Easter egg, a little tiny cool hint of the Marvel universe from the comics, and just showing that, you know, they took part of all the different aspects of the Marvel Comics and just decided to put Feast in the building. We do not know if we can actually enter this building or if Feast is going to be a big part of the story. This is just a cool theory that if Mr. Lee, Martin Lee, is taking control of Feast and is controlling all the employees there and running it as kind of his back alley underground crime empire at Feast, because that's what Feast is. Feast is Martin Lee's underground bellyache of his criminal empire. That is where he kind of does his dirty work. Underneath Feast, like in the basement of Feast, that is where he sets up all of his criminal shenanigans with the Inner Demons to try and take control of New York. This is just one of his many bases of operation. But the fact that he actually hires Eddie Brock and lets him work at Feast is actually a pretty interesting idea to be in play for this game. And even though we had Anti-Venom in Edge of Time, that was the only game that we ever saw Anti-Venom in, which is a really, really, really cool thing, because that boss battle, when you were fighting Anti-Venom when you were both the Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2099, was actually really cool boss battles. Those were actually really interesting and fun, and, you know, not challenging, but they are still really dynamic boss battles. And if they were to bring Anti-Venom a fully next-generation Spider-Man game, it would be really, really interesting to see how that plays out. And again, the main reason why I believe Anti-Venom could be in this game is that since Martin Lee owns Feast, and Mr. Negative is Martin Lee's alter ego, his other persona, no one knows that Martin Lee is Mr. Negative. Same thing with Spider-Man. No one knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So, the only person, though, who knows who Martin Lee is Mr. Negative is Eddie Brock as Anti-Venom. He discovered that Martin Lee was actually Mr. Negative at one point in a comic where Anti-Venom was trying to hunt down Martin Lee, but then he found out that Mr. Negative and Martin Lee were the same person, and then Anti-Venom exposed him for the fraud that he was. Which is another thing. Anti-Venom is a good guy, actually. Anti-Venom is a hero that actually tries to help New York, especially during the Spider Island event in the Spider-Man comics. Anti-Venom was a huge part of that. He cured the majority of the people in New York City and was praised for it by one of the Marvel heroes. I forget, it was Iron Man or Reed Richards. No, it was Reed Richards, but he was praised for his heroics by saving everybody in New York City. So in Edge of Time, it was kind of a rushed story where we were just given Anti-Venom as a villain, and he just went into huge Anti-Venom to fight him as a boss since he was mind-controlled. But without the mind control, he is a straight-up good guy. So, if Anti-Venom is in this game, it might be a really interesting dynamic to see be played out if Eddie Brock is really struggling to try and be Anti-Venom and trying to also not hurt other people anymore, while also trying to stay separated from the Venom symbiote. And again, this is an experienced Spider-Man, so it has to be that he has fought other villains from his past before. He must have encountered Green Goblin already, maybe Doc Ock, probably Mr. Negative too. But since he's experienced, that means with his skills. Like, Spider-Man's very experienced skill-wise. He is very, very experienced in regards to his power set and what he can do with his powers and all that stuff and so on. In regards to fighting villains, we still don't know if he has fought all of his main nemesises before, if he has actually encountered Mr. Negative before, if he even knows who Eddie Brock is. I'm assuming he does, because if this is an experienced Spider-Man who has been Spider-Man for a while, and he has used to fighting big crime in New York City, that indicates that he has fought some supervillains before. So, if Eddie Brock has already been separated from the Venom symbiote and is actually Anti-Venom now, it'd be really cool to see that story be played out between Mr. Negative and Anti-Venom be actually shown in this game. And again, Anti-Venom actually took a big impact towards the city of New York and Mr. Negative by actually hunting down the Inner Demons. Anti-Venom was actually on a patrol trying to take out all of Mr. Negative's gang members to make New York City a better place while teaming up with Spider-Man in the process. And Mr. Negative, since he's Martin Lee, Spider-Man did not believe that from Anti-Venom, since Martin Lee is a very well-renowned New York citizen that actually helps people, so Spider-Man didn't believe it at all. So that dynamic being played out in this story would be really cool if Anti-Venom is actually in this game. So thank you so much for watching, True Believers. Thank you so much to Juan Gomez for actually sharing this theory with me. It means a lot, dude. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Stay spectacular, True Believers. Peace out.